This is Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
And Olias Spainhower.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. This episode is the second in a two-part series that takes a look back on the conventions that we did in 2017. Please listen to episode number 9 for the first part. So somewhere around this time, I took the kids to Geek Craft Expo. I did not set up there, just took them as an attendee. That was an interesting show. It's completely different than any other convention I'd ever been to because it was all literally just geek craft. So people who are making things inspired by their favorite fandoms or whatever.
That's kind of cool.
It was. I was kind of amazed at how much pixel art was there, though.
Pixel art?
Pixel art, you know the little dot things that are pixels that you take and then you melt them all together. Mm-hmm. So there were people who did some seriously cool things with these. Like there was one lady there who had a 3D pixel art miniature arcade game of Mega Man 5, right? And that was incredibly cool. But at the end of the day, I don't buy pixel art. I'm not going to buy pixel art. My kids did. I gave them like each $15 and they found some things to buy. But all in all, I expected to find a little bit more there in terms of variety than what I felt was there. So I would probably go to that show again in the future just to walk around. It's free to get in, and they have their show, I think, in pretty much every state now.
Where was it at?
It was at the DoubleTree Hotel in Portland.
I don't know where that is.
Right by the Lloyd Center.
Oh, okay.
So it was neat in a lot of ways. There was some cool stuff to look at. It was a lot different, and there would be no reason I would ever set up there as a vendor because I do the wrong kind of stuff.
You wouldn't even need to drive to it. Just take the Max.
Yeah, exactly. Somewhere around there, we also went as just attendees to Rose City Comic Con. That was the first convention that Elias had ever been to that was an actual big convention. I was not a vendor there. We just went there just to walk around, buy some stuff, bullshit with my friends, things like that. I interviewed a few people. Those interviews can now be heard on the Comic Collaborative podcast, my other podcast. We took your sister with us. She had never been to any convention, period. Yeah, so that one, I had not been an attendee at a big show for a long time. I haven't been anything other than a vendor at them for a very long time. So walking around with you guys did remind me of why people love to be on the other side of the table. So that was nice. It was nice going to it for me just for that, because that's an experience I've been missing for a very long time. So, walking around with you guys, seeing it through kind of your guys' eyes, that gave me something to love about it.
So I had whiplash walking through Artist Alley. I'm like, what is all this? Yeah.
So why don't you give your thoughts on it?
I loved it. Never been to a convention of that size. Mm-hmm. Hell, I don't even think, other than my friend, I've never even seen a cosplayer in real life, other than Halloween maybe. But yeah, no, it was awesome. There's just so much to see, to look at. I still don't think I was able to look at everything, even though we made our rounds. I feel like I could have spent a few more hours.
Yeah, we probably missed quite a few things.
Yeah, but I saw one familiar face. I can't remember his name. He does the metal printing thing.
Oh, Jason Metcalf.
Yeah.
So,
saw one familiar face. You saw a few.
Mm-hmm.
Got to meet one of your artists, one of your artists, and
Paul Johnson, who's the artist on El Bovine Muerte #1 through 3.5 issue. He was there with Jason Zachary Pott at Neo Trash Comics. They do some comics together.
Yeah,
and Paul had flown from England. He flew from Nottingham. I don't care if he thinks he came from Manchester. So
you're telling him where he came from?
Yeah. It's a joke from the other interview I did with him.
But yeah, it was great to meet him. I bought one of their comics too. Just I love his artwork, and what was it? I can't remember the name of it. It's escaping me for some reason, but it was Hobo Necromancer.
Oh, you're talking about Deacon Jax.
Yes. Oh my god.
Deacon Jax, homeless necromancer. I think
it is. And I saw it and I was just like, that seems. I have to read this. I just have to. And yeah, no, I had a great time there. My sister had a great time too. So many pictures. So many pictures. I got my picture taken, which I thought was amazing. I was wearing a group pool shirt, and everybody kept commenting on it, and then I finally had one dude, like, I had, like, food in one hand and a drink in the other, and, like, I had to, like, pull my camera to the side so he can get a picture of it, but he's like, oh my god, I have to get a picture of your shirt. I'm like, cool. But no, yeah, they had a whole free arcade section set
Yeah,
up
that was
there.
pretty cool. It's unfortunate that we didn't have time to sit there and play games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it was great. I kind of wish I had seen Weird Al, but I'm not really into, like, paying a bunch of money to go see a celebrity.
Yeah, it would
I'd rather
great
I'd rather run into him at a bar like I did Elton.
But
like,
paying like $150.
Yeah, just to get an autograph and maybe a picture. Like, it just doesn't...
Not worth it.
Not worth it to me.
No. He's just a person.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's a famous person, but he's still a person.
Right. Yeah. So I have yet to do Rose City as a vendor. That was the first time I've ever been at that particular show.
Oh.
But as long as they do not sell out prior to me getting some money together, I fully intend to be there in 2018 as a vendor.
As Darkslingers or
as Darkslinger?
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like, whenever I do big cons, if at all possible, I like to buy in the exhibitor area because, you know, you can showcase more stuff, gives you more room for your backdrop, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Artist alley, you're generally a lot more squeezed in. You're packed in like sardines when you're in an artist alley.
Yeah.
I feel like exhibitor area, not only do you have more room to exhibit your wares, but you just have more room that you can just move around and be free behind there.
Yeah.
You're not bumping chairs with the person behind you.
Yeah.
Artist alley, you so often are.
Yeah.
So, and if you try to get a backdrop in there, it's always such a weird effort to do.
We definitely need to get that backdrop down, though.
Oh, the backdrop is
new
going
one
to be worked on.
Yes.
So the prototype has worked out pretty well, but it's time to actually make the real thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I'll be working on.
I would like to try my idea in a small scale to see if it would work better.
Well, that's all something we can talk about off the podcast. So the next show I did, neither one of you were my helpers for. I didn't realize how many of them I had done that you guys didn't help me with. I thought pretty much all of them were you too. But this one, Josh Dent was my helper on, and it was Crossroads in Salem. So I will just state I had extremely low expectations for this show. It seemed like the only real type of marketing I'd seen for it were a few Facebook posts here and there. And I didn't even know if there had been like postcard marketing or anything like that done for it.
But was there balloons?
There were balloons.
Ah, must have been a good one then.
Yeah, I had mentioned that to Josh when we pulled up, actually. so
maybe you should bring your own balloons, or does that break it?
I don't know. That might break it. I'm not sure.
I do like the idea, though.
Yeah,
Just
just
for
randomly.
Just like you
For
roll,
science,
you
yeah.
roll up and there's no balloons out there, so you just quickly get out and fill up your own. Don't worry, guys, I got this.
You know,
So-
I think we should do half the show without balloons and then add them and see if there's any kind of difference in the vibe of the show.
So the fact that I had absolutely no expectations for the show just made it all the better, right? So actually, this was, I do believe, my third best show in terms of sales. I didn't make any Darkslinger sales at this show unless Josh forgot to write them down, which is possible. I bought a few things there. Floyd was right across from me, so had a fun time with him. And one of the things that I just loved the most about this show is that two of the people who were next to me had given up before the show was even like 2 hours into it. So I just ended up taking over their tables and ended up with 3 tables. So
Nice.
yeah. So I had like this big strip of the show that I just took. And like, I asked the people before I took it over. I didn't, I didn't just take it over just because. But
Surprising someone would give up so early.
the one gentleman was a very, very crotchety man. So, he was
Too old for that shit.
Yeah, he was very angry. He was overcharging badly on his stuff. Like, if you're going to sell comics journals at most of these little shows, you want to put them at a price point of like $1 to $3 a piece. I know that because most of the shows in Portland, I buy up all of them that I find, right? He had like $20 a piece on them, which you might be able to get on like eBay, but you're just not going to at a show like this, right? And he had a bunch of obscure Silver Age stuff, and he was charging eBay prices, maybe even a little bit more than eBay prices. on some of it and then getting very pissed off when people didn't want to buy it, right? Like, I looked at the one comic journal, I'm like, if you want to make me a deal, I'd buy it. Well, what type of deal do you want? I'm like, I don't know. You have 10. I'll give you like 7, I guess, because it was one I really wanted to interview in, right? He got super angry. He's like, $9.75. That's the lowest I go. Like, okay. And in any case, he just got he was very, very crotchety. He ended up just taking off and leaving. And and I was like, so you're leaving, or are you just packing up stuff and bringing in new stuff, or what? No, I'm taking off. It's clear to me I'm not going to make any money. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take your table. So
worked for you.
So anyway, that show was a lot of fun. I made quite a bit of profit, and I think, like I said, the best part about it was I honestly didn't even have expectations on whether or not I was going to make my table money back. So I thought it was a good time. And Josh seemed to have fun, so that's good too. So the next one was Olias's grand return, right? Yep.
Yeah.
That was on September 30th. So
I remember this.
Looks like I took the entire month of August off from cons. I think Rose City might have fallen in August, though.
Maybe,
if I remember right. So this one was September 30th, and it was Vancouver Toy Junkies. So I did sell a copy of Who Will Save the World at a pretty steep discount, but I did end up selling a copy there, so I was pretty happy about that. Didn't make many sales in general there. It was one that I did decide to do very, very, very late. And a lot of times when you do that, you can't be too complaining about where your table placement was. But I did have pretty poor table placement at this one because, like, the lady to the right of me was selling vintage dolls.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy to the left of me was selling vintage toy tractors. It's awesome if somebody's coming there to look for them, but this is an action figure show.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure
I had action figures.
Place. Like
no, we were actually one row over.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
So I had the type of stuff that people want to look at when they go there. But a lot of times they'd start at her or they'd start at him and see one or the other and just kind of skip by our table because they just assumed that there wasn't going to be really anything for them. So I got some good buys at that show. Did not make, let's see here, did not even make table at that one. So overall, I think what that one taught me more than anything is I don't have the right type of inventory for the Vancouver Toy Junkie show. Because most of the people who are making a lot of money at that one have a lot of 80s action figures. Mm-hmm. And I don't have much of that left in my inventory. And I'm not really that interested in delving into action figures again as a reseller. I'd prefer to stick to comics as much as possible. And I think they help when I'm selling those to push my own comics that I'm making forward more because I can use comics people buy to promote my comics. Like, oh, you bought this. Maybe you like this, and give them a free copy or whatever. It doesn't work that way really with action figures. So it was with this show, even though it was a fun show, and I did really well at the first Vancouver Toy Junkies and moderately well at the second one that was a team up with the Frankenstein show. This show sank my willingness to return. So in 2018, I've decided I will not be returning to Vancouver Toy Junkies as a dealer, but I might go as a buyer because I know that there are some good deals you can get. There's some cool stuff you can find.
There's Dratinis.
Yeah. So there's Dratinis there. There's also a lot of Magikarp. So that was actually the best part about that show is I was able to level up my Magikarp to a Gyarados finally.
Yeah, and that bitchin' statue too.
Which statue?
It was like the last thing you bought
yes. I did end up buying a statue for $20 that I turned around on to the tune of $200 when we were there. So that was nice.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that made the show profitable a few weeks later on eBay. So it just didn't have the same vibe that the one Robert and I did in the beginning of the year did.
Or the Frankenstein mix
show,
up.
Like if it was closer, I might go back to it. Like
right.
if you're going as a person to go, I might tag along.
Right.
Because I like the records part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I all of a sudden found myself a lot of inventory of records and things like that, I would probably go to it if I have the right type of inventory for it. It's like I'm saying, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the show or that it doesn't have good attendance. What I'm stating is I personally don't have the type of inventory that's going to sell at that show. And that's just something that I just came to grips with the third go around.
Unless they team up with Frankenstein again.
Oh, yeah, because I'm always going to be willing to do Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Even if I lost money at like 3 Frankensteins, I'd still be willing to return for a 4th. I love that show. It's one of my favorite shows.
That toy show had like a whole room just dedicated to trains.
It did. There was
they were cool looking.
There was one vendor that bought up the whole room. So
he had like 9 tables.
Yeah.
And it was all trains.
Yeah. Was there one big train that went around?
No.
Actually, there was.
Oh, there was?
I think so.
Oh, it's pretty lame to buy the whole room.
If I talked to his convention helper quite a few times, and he told me that it's basically like he travels everywhere with this guy, and it's basically just like a bunch of 80-year-old guys that are all really angry and like, and they have all the train stuff, but they keep going to these shows, and so like they never buy anything.
I think that's where I got my Guardians of the Galaxy too, that show.
Yeah. So the next con we were at was another one Mr. Olias helped out at, which was Fantasticon 2, which happened once again in Tacoma, Washington.
The sequel.
So we had a good enough time at the first Fantasticon this year, despite there being extremely limited space behind the tables, to return for a second go-around.
And I did find a preacher at the Goodwill at that one.
You did, at the first one.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah, which was funny. You didn't find much to buy at the show itself, but after we left, we stopped at a Goodwill, and bam, you find a graphic novel there.
Yeah. And preacher, nonetheless. Oh, my God.
This Fantasticon was at a different location. We actually had space behind our table. So we had great table neighbors there. Floyd didn't go up for this one, so he wasn't our table neighbor at this one, but we had really good table neighbors. I bought a ton, or actually traded for a ton of old comic interviews and comic book journals.
This was the Skylanders Day.
Yeah, and you got Skylanders when we were there. We made quite a bit of money at the show. We didn't make as much as we did the first go-around. I did, however, sell a copy of Who Will Save the World there. So it was a good day in terms of selling at least one Darkslinger product, which, I would like to sell more than that, but...
Well, and you had your cards out, and so when people were handing me cards, I was handing your cards out, and when I was visiting tables and stuff.
Right.
And,
So I made some good buys there, made some good trades. We liked the people who were tabling next to us.
Both sides.
If they do that show again, I'm really hoping that they stop doing those weird tables, though. Because this one, like, the tables aren't very long, right? But they do, like, this double, like, 2 tables that are stacked together.
Well, and the tables are, like, literally, like, a foot wide. Or, like, a foot and a half.
But then you have, like, this incredibly weird width table in front of you that you don't really know how to manipulate your product on like you would at most other shows.
Yeah.
So, all in all, though, I thought that show was pretty fun. We had a good time. We met some good people. Like I said, sold the Darkslinger product, got a bunch of the comics interviews and comics journals that I'm always personally looking for. Made enough money to justify going up to Tacoma.
Oh, yeah.
Which is always a good thing. That was the last Fantasticon of the year. So if they do another Fantasticon in 2018, what are you laughing at, doo-doo?
Yes.
Of course. It's almost as bad as duty.
If Fantasticon returns for a number 3, then I'm pretty positive I will be there again as long as I have the inventory for it. So, all in all, that was a fun show. Fun day.
I loved it. I wanted to say I got a lot of Lobo, but I think I just grabbed it out of your box.
Yeah, all those Lobos came from my box because you went to buy one. And I was like, have you checked below to see if those are in the boxes? Because if so, you can have them. You helped me up at enough shows.
But yeah, really great show. Had a lot of, I liked the little, like right when you walk in the door, there's to the right, it was like a little hallway thing.
Yeah.
They had a lot of artsy, crafty stuff that you don't see at a lot of shows.
That was mainly, I think that's mainly where they put like Artist Alley.
Yeah.
So it was actually a really true Artist Alley, because usually it's just called Artist Alley, but it's in the same area as everything else.
It's just,
This was actually Artist Alley because it was like a separate separate
it was
little place.
hallway. It was an actual alley.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I definitely returned to it. I thought it was fun, good vibe.
And they still have that weird rope human sculpture thing. I still need to ask somebody about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was at the first Fantasticon too, and it was just sitting in the corner at that one. This one was a little more pronounced, and I'm like, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what you're talking about.
It's in a little box, and it's like it looks like a human,
Okay.
but it's like literally made of just like a bunch of ropes.
Okay.
Like tied together in weird way. I don't even know.
Right.
It was weird though. And I need to figure this out. So we have to go to another Fantasticon.
Okay, we will. So following that was the Sasquatch Comic Fest once again in Eugene. That happened on October 29th, and Elias was once again my helper for that. So I sold a couple of copies of Who Will Save the World at that one. This was my second most profitable show of the year. So I ended up selling a ton, and it was shocking how well we did. So after the first show, I was kind of on the fence of doing it the second time. So it was it was profitable enough the first go around, but it was just kind of just barely there. And Eugene is a bit of a distance from Awala. But it ended up I had a guy I was meeting to sell some bike parts that happened to be in Eugene. So that gave me a double reason to go down there. So I ended up getting a table, and it worked out marvelously.
Yeah.
I bought a ton of stuff there. Like, I kept telling you to quit letting me buy stuff. But there were quarter bins everywhere you looked.
Deal after deal.
I think you almost got more comic interview magazines than you did at Fantasticon. It was close.
It was
you
close.
got a lot.
It was close.
You got a lot of
It was
that one.
very, very
But
close.
it was the end of the day lot on the Fantasticon. But yeah. And I didn't really go out and pick out a lot of stuff, but you found a lot of stuff for me, which was really cool.
Yeah. I found
I did buy
quite
a
a few
D&D book.
Lobos and things like that.
Well, yeah, a couple Lobos, but you found literally because like you showed me one of the
you were
Nick
interested
Fury.
in reading the Fury that Garth Ennis wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I read like one in the middle of it, and then you literally found all the ones around it. And
Yeah.
I was like, and you actually completed a couple runs there, or got really close to, or completed.
I did complete quite a few runs there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And got a lot for, I think, your Punisher run?
I did for a Punisher run, and then I came close to completing my Elementals run there. So I found quite a few of those actually in like the 50-cent and quarter bins, which was nice. So yeah, all in all, it was really good. If Donna does that show again, I do plan on returning to it. The second go around definitely convinced me that it'd be well worth going.
Well, the first go around was so fantabulous for me. It was my first one.
Right.
So like when I came back, I'm like, oh, we're back here. And guess what? They have drinks.
Right.
I didn't have any, but like it was there in case I needed them.
Right.
Oh, and this time I got you good tea instead of that horrible black tea.
Oh, the horrible black tea. That was so bad.
Just tell him not to be a baby and drink it.
He did, but it was unsweetened, so I had like 60 sugar packets. But obviously, you need to add the sugar packets when they're hot. So yeah,
Right.
It didn't work out.
And whereas the first show was the quietest show I'd ever been in, just in terms of people talking, people weren't treating it like a library this time around.
Oh no!
So people were talking out loud with raised voices that you could hear.
Well,
that was rather nice.
What I thought was
with vigor
was funny is on either side of us we had like high end sealed like comics.
CGC type, yeah.
Whatever that means, yes.
The graded slabs,
yes. Yeah. And like graded and sealed things,
which are things none of the three of us are interested in.
No, but
I haven't really seen them at many places that we've been.
They haven't been at many of the places that we've been.
Yeah, they wouldn't work in that market.
Not really, and that's the guy to the right of us was doing super well, but he was also selling stuff like the first appearance of Gambit for like $30. I was really mad.
You didn't buy it?
Well, I didn't know it was $30. I was really mad because this guy picked it up and it was a CGC graded like 9.6 copy, right? And had I known it was $30, I would have bought it for you and given it to you as a Christmas gift, right?
That would have been so
But
awesome.
I thought they were probably charging like at least $100 for it, right? And the guy picks it up. He's like, "Hey, how much is this?" The guy's like, "Well, where'd you come from?" He's like, "Oh, I drove from Vancouver." "You drove from Vancouver to Eugene? Well, then for you it's $30." I'm like,
I'm from
I
Alaska.
would have bought that. Yeah, I would have said I was from Alaska if I'd known that made a difference.
Oh man.
But
He also got sold a $300 Thor.
Yeah,
to one
he
dude.
sold a lot of stuff, but even though 300 seems like a really high price for what it was, it's not that high of a price. So he had really, really good deals. It was like he was doing the discount thing that you want to do at these shows, but on top end comics.
Yeah.
So the people to the left of us, however, they weren't selling them with quite the same enthusiasm. You know, I mean, like they were really good guys, but they didn't have the salesmanship this guy had, number one.
Yeah.
Number two.
And they did lose one of their guys right off the bat.
What do you mean, lose one of their guys?
Right early on, literally like while we were setting up, one dude's just like, dude, I have to go. My mom just died. And,
I didn't know that. No wonder they didn't have that. Because
it was fairly morbid over there. Like they were.
I had no clue
low.
about that. Okay. Yeah. But the prices that they had on the comics was more of like what you would expect to find on eBay. Nobody goes to these shows looking to spend eBay prices.
Oh, no.
No, you're there to make a deal.
Yeah. So, yeah, in any case, like, you know, I had a great time there. I picked up some stuff I was super excited about. I told Mr. Olias to please quit letting me spend money, but he's afraid of me, so he can't.
No, you were selling bike parts, and the guy came through. So like, we're winning.
You got extra money. Winning. Go ahead and spend it.
I just kept pointing at all the the Darkslinger shit you sold.
I know.
And I was just like, "You're good. You're
right?
Good."
Yeah. So anyway, we did really good at that show, and I definitely, if Sasquatch happens for another go around, I will definitely be back down there. One thing I will personally do if Sasquatch is going to happen again, though, is I'm going to be pushing it a lot harder on my social media. Because I don't get the impression for Fantasticon or Sasquatch that there's anyone too social media savvy working behind those. And since I have a reach of a little over 1,000 on the Facebook Darkslinger page, so on and so forth, I'll just kind of help to push the word out there a little bit more than what I did this year. After that, you two didn't help me out at any more shows. You guys were complete assholes.
We're done with you.
Done with me.
I didn't need any more.
So for the next show, I had to rely on Robert's brother Alex. So that was the third Frankenstein of the year, which happened on November 11th, and it was my last show of the year. I'm not going to do any more for December. I am done for the year. I've done enough.
Oh, and that was holding out. Honestly.
I don't think that there are any more in December. But
it doesn't seem like a good time to have it. Just
it
like
really doesn't.
In June.
Yeah, November is kind of like people are getting to the point where they're thinking about Christmas shopping. So if they have people are into comics on their gift list,
They'll
it's
spend
a
a
good
little
time.
extra money to get something brand new.
Yeah. So the problem with having Alex as a helper, though, is it gets towards the end of the day, no matter what show you're at, he starts talking about setting your inventory on fire. He always does it. And he's like, I don't want to carry this stuff out to the car. We're going to set it on fire. You can't buy anything else. I'm going to set it on fire. And so Alex is not as good of a motivator as what you two are.
No, he's motivated.
Show is on fire.
He's motivated to do as little as he can.
Right, exactly. Now, besides Alex talking about setting my inventory on fire, though, he was a good helper. He's helped out at some of the bigger shows in the past. He's actually been to Emerald City with me quite a few times.
He was here before both of us.
He was. Yep. Yeah, he helped me. Actually, I only knew Alex for 1 week when he helped me out at Stumptown. So what happened was Kate was my helper on Friday at Stumptown, like clear back in 2009 or 2010, somewhere around there. And she wasn't going to be able to do the second day, right? And she talks to Alex, and she's like, well, if you're willing to go help Adam, he'll give you the badge to be there. And so he shows up, and I had met him for maybe 15 minutes prior to that, right? So I was like, okay, so, I got this guy I don't really know, so I'm trying to, make small talk with him the whole time. Alex and Robert are both the same, that if they don't know you, they don't talk to you. So he's just kind of standing there with his hands in his pockets the whole time and like, uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh.
Word.
And during that time, for whatever reason, Alan Bennett and I like to take magic markers and girls that we knew that would let us, we'd put the Darkslinger emblem as a tramp stamp on their back, right? so we're doing these tramp stamps on all these girls all day. and one of our creator friends, who I'll just give him, I won't say his name,
The
for his own
benefit of
benefit.
not
Yeah, the
naming
benefit
him.
of not naming him. He's standing there watching us tramp stamp his wife, and he's like, "Guys, it's my wife. Don't put the Darkslinger emblem on my wife."
You're next, buddy.
Yeah. But she was totally into it. She's like, "Yeah, it's awesome. Do one. I want a tattoo." So now we're doing that. We're doing this, and I was a little bit crazier back in those days. And after the show, Alex is talking to Kate, and he's like, "Your friend's not a comic artist." She's like, "What?" Our comic creator. He's like, "Your friend's not a comic creator." She's like, "What? What do you mean?" He's like, "I don't know. He's like a rock star or a tattoo artist or something. I can't figure it out, but he's not a comic creator."
I'll give him that. You look like a biker, not a comic creator.
I get told I don't look like a comic creator all the time, and I don't even understand what that means. What's a comic creator supposed to look like?
A nerd.
No, my favorite thing I get at tables is they look at you and you're like, "You must be the writer," and then they take one look at the hippie sitting next to him and they're like, "You drew all this, didn't you?" I'm just the muscle. Wait, you're the muscle? No, I schlep shit. I just move stuff. If a fight were to break out, he would probably be taking over. But I'll definitely get my kicks in.
I'm just here for moral support.
Exactly.
So, anyway, Frankenstein, third go around, great show, fun. I bought way too much stuff at that one.
We had no one to say no.
Right.
No one to say...
Well,
no one to
Alex
tell,
kept
to
looking
tell
at me
no.
and being like, what are you doing? Stop buying all this stuff, right? But the thing is there were comic industry magazines everywhere at that show. And they were all like $1 a piece or $2 a piece, and I couldn't leave until I had them all. So
You got a problem.
That creative crack, man.
I know it. But the whole thing is like, I might have spent as much at that show as what I made, but I made a decent amount, so...
That doesn't make a difference on your bottom line.
I know, not when I put it all back into things, but I'm helping to support the industry, so
By not supporting yourself?
apparently. So
I mean, eventually you'll turn them around.
I didn't sell any Darkslinger product that one, but I didn't really expect to, and I'm not turning them around. Those are things I'm keeping.
You just keep.
I just keep, yeah.
Even if you've read them all the way through.
Yeah.
He's a hoarder.
I'm not a hoarder, but I do keep comic industry magazines and graphic novels that I like. So, the way I look at it with comic industry magazines is, if I read through them, I might get a different viewpoint on marketing or writing or something of that nature that I've never got before. Or it might just be good to hear this story about this person who, they were an indie comic creator like me, and all of a sudden they took off, something like that.
Or even their struggles. Or...
Right. But it's also kind of like, I might start writing a story that I'm looking at from a particular angle, and I need to look at it from a different angle. And like, I might remember, oh, hey, I read this interview with Howard Chaykin, and right now, number 7 or whatever it is that Howard Chaykin appears in, back in the day, I read that in like 2002. I'm writing something, and maybe I need to look at it from the viewpoint of the Howard Chaykin was when he's doing American Flag. So maybe I'll go back and reread that and see if there's anything about his viewpoint when he read American Flag in there, right? So I'm not getting rid of them. They mean too much to me. My graphic novels, on the other hand, if I get broke enough, I'd sell them all if I had to, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
But in any case, like, yes, I spent a tremendous sum of money there. I didn't have you two there to get me out of it, apparently. Alex is just no good. In any case, that show was a lot of fun. I would definitely, as I've mentioned before, return to doing Frankenstein just like I have the last 3 this year. And if I ever didn't have the inventory for it, I would definitely go there every single time that I could as an attendee. Absolutely love that show. It is. Oh, yeah. And, people have such great deals there. You just won't find things for as cheap as what they sell them for at that show in Sasquatch. Yeah. So both those shows are so worthwhile just if you want to just shop.
Well, it's a tiny little hole-in-the-wall show that is actually decent.
Yeah.
I feel like you don't really come across that.
Right.
Well, and like Squatch is the same way. Like, and the people there are just great. Like, The old couple from the first show were still at their same table. Like,
So in total, we did 14 shows this year. It's not a record by any means, but it's still a pretty goddamn decent amount, especially when you take into consideration that almost all of them were crowded into the last part of this year. It's like, the majority of what we did were April through November, right?
mm-hmm.
So, 14 is quite a few. It's not a record.
Well, it is for me, but
It's a good amount.
It's a record for both you guys. Neither one of you had ever been to this many cons. Before
Yeah, I guess
this,
not.
you had only been to Crypticon with me, and you did that twice, right?
Yeah.
And then before this, you had never been to any cons. So 14 plus 2 that I was an attendee. Actually 3, because I did go to one of the Mall 205 shows just to look around too. So all in total, I think it was a fairly successful year, but it was successful mainly in terms of being a reseller. So one of the things that I need to do in 2018 is return to cons that are actually more geared towards selling Darkslinger product. But one of the goals for 2018 also needs to be getting out more Darkslinger product. That's something we're going to go into in the next episode. So, is there anything you guys would like to say about the cons we did this year? What you think that we should look forward to next year? What we should do differently next year?
If you can get on a Crypticon again, that would be great.
There's a wait list currently.
Yeah.
So I want to get to Crypticon. I want to do horror shows in general.
I think that one does better for your brand.
I think so too. I actually am going to take a look at all the horror shows that are in the United States and just see.
Ooh, road trip.
Yeah. I mean, I got sister lives in Kentucky and there's like 2 over there. So
That'd be neat.
it would be. Maybe I'll take you both with me.
Oh, such a long road trip.
I know, and you hate going to Eugene, so I can't imagine you going to fucking Kentucky.
Just don't expect me to drive for very long.
I want it. That'd actually be a reason to take Alex right there, because Alex doesn't mind. Like, when I took both of you guys, you guys might have driven for a bit on the way back, but when I took Alex, I just made him drive 100%. He was my driver all day.
I won't. You've only had me drive back from a couple places. I think Vancouver's the furthest show that I've driven back with you.
Okay. Yeah. And we had Mr. Elias over there that was driving like an absolute fucking lunatic on the way back from Eugene, so.
Hey, that one was crazy. We needed gas. There's like 3 lanes, and yeah, it was a hot mess. Yeah,
Right.
and it was funny. I was driving the car before it was fully loaded, and I'm like, okay, it's just I remember this car because I've been driving my car, so
Right.
driving Jess's car is a little different. So I'm like, oh, I'm up on top of the world here in a little exploder, and then all of a sudden it gets loaded up, and I drive it, and I'm like, I have to like have at least 800 feet before I can come to a complete stop from 30 miles an hour.
So anyway, I think the biggest goal for conventions in 2018 needs to just be to get into cons where Darkslinger stuff is going to go over very well.
Yeah.
And as we move towards 2018, the cons that I would definitely return to that we did this year are, of course, Frankenstein, as I mentioned several times. I would do another Sasquatch show for sure. I would skip the Vancouver Toy Show.
Unless it's
I
connected
would skip
with
Twin Oaks. Unless it's connected with Frankenstein, because then I would have the right sort of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I would recommend Vancouver Toy Show to anybody that's selling like 80s action figures. If that's what your inventory is, by all means, hit that show up.
Oh, yeah.
You'll
Well,
do
and
great there.
Hell, I think at
Or if you have records, I think you'd probably
Yeah.
do well there too.
a couple of the guys we know from Things from Another World is usually at both the toy shows and the Frank cons.
They're not at Frankenstein, but they're at the toy
Well,
show.
oh, okay. They were at the collaborated one
Right.
too, but yeah, they have a good amount of inventory, and that's where I picked up. Oh God, I can't remember. I can't remember the name of it. It was some comic, and he's just like, "Dude, you have to read it." And I was just like, "All right." And I went through it, and it was amazing.
Right.
And it was a really decently priced. It was a full on like trade paperback, and I got it for like $5.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like there,
Yeah.
there is, even if you are looking for comics, it's a good place to check out.
Right. So yeah, I would skip PCNW. and I would skip the No-Po show if they do it again, which honestly I'd be pretty amazed if they did, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something you'd redo.
Crossroads I would do again, but I talked to the gentleman who ran that show, and it didn't sound like he's overly interested in running a show again, unfortunately. But I think that one would actually go over well. So hopefully somebody else picks up a little show in Salem. I've been to shows that try to be really big in Salem. They don't really work out too well. But I think that's the problem, is they're trying to be big. I don't think you'd be big in that area. Fantastic Con, I definitely do again. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, 2017, I tried out some new shows. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. I'll be returning to some of them in 2018. Some of them I won't.
Ooh, Wenatchee too.
Oh, Wenatchee. I will definitely be back in Wenatchee.
And that other off show that they were talking about up there. And I'd be definitely down for that kind of trip.
Right.
It's long, but it's fun.
Yeah,
I loved
it was big time fun. So, overall, I think in 2017 conventions, I can't quite mark it as quite a success because I didn't do a single one that I did as just Darkslinger. So, at the moment for me, I'm going to have to mark them as better than they were in 2016, where I only did one. But I need to get it back to like 2010 when I did 42 of them. It may seem insane, but, I need to do at least...
That's one like every week.
I know. I need to do at least 10 of them that I get Darkslinger more out there. So, overall, I'm going to go ahead and mark this year as good, but not great. Merely because I didn't get Darkslinger out there as much as I would have liked to. So, I'll be doing more of those type of shows come 2018.
Well, and like a creator-specific show, maybe? Like,
yes,
be kind of
I
cool.
need to be doing creator-specific shows. The thing is, in this area, creator-specific shows haven't really been going on. So, okay, so there's one more thing before we totally shut this podcast down. Elias has to talk about what his absolute favorite thing was that he saw this year at conventions.
Well, I mean, other than getting my picture taken at a convention that we attended, no. Adam went to go wash his hands from eating some greasy foods. And
or just because I wash my hands 42 times a day.
Yeah, it could have been one of the two. But no, and apparently Donna from Sasquatch has an inflatable Pikachu suit for adults. And I thought that was the most amazing thing ever. And, because, like, if you walk, because you can't really move your legs that much, so as you walk around, it naturally waddles. So it's, like, the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Like, I could definitely see myself in one. I'll be your doorman. I'll be the Pikachu doorman.
Have you seen the remake of Arthur?
Yes.
With Russell Brand? Okay. You know the whole scene where he's working in, like, the toy store and he's trying to get into the costume?
Mm-hmm. That's what you
that was Elias. Excuse me, what do I have to do to wear that?
I should have said that. I could have been in that Pikachu suit.
You could have been. So next week will be our second episode in the 2017 wrap-up series, where we'll be talking about what I accomplished, what I didn't accomplish, and what I hope to accomplish in 2018 in terms of product launches and titles coming out. So join us next Monday and every Monday. I'm Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Olias Spainhower.
Thank you for listening.